thank you so much for coming here. First day of school, always an exciting time.
It absolutely is, Dr. Rawlings. And first of all, I want to say thank you for this opportunity to be here. I love the opportunity that you're going to give our students here and our staff to hear updates throughout the school year from our studio here. So first off, thank you for getting this going and the opportunity to be here today. Welcome back, everyone. I think it's always a great time when we get to the point where we start another school year. I know sometimes the first couple of days are kind of difficult because we're getting out of our summer mode and into our school mode again. But I always think that, in my opinion, I think back when I was a kid too, that it's always kind of exciting to get back around your friends and back in the routine of the school year and all the activities going on. So while we're not always excited to end summer, I think it's always a great opportunity after 8 or 9 weeks off away from this routine to get back on our daily routine and get the school year going again. So welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone had an outstanding summer, and certainly I'm looking forward to a great school year.
I agree. Well, thanks for being here again. Have 3 quick questions for you. Now we know where your career went, but real curious, what was your favorite subject in school?
You know, I'm one of those that all along growing up, I always liked history. So no matter what, I remember in elementary school I had Indiana history when I was in 4th grade, for example, and I remember those days. Then through middle school social studies classes, the different history classes, and all through high school. So I'm one of those that I knew, like I pretty much said, and I have a teacher that confirmed this when I was in high school, that as a sophomore in high school, I said I was going to be a history teacher. And so I had that goal early on. It was clearly my favorite subject. So anything history, government, anything along those lines, were always my favorite subject, and that is why I ended up teaching back in my early career when I was a teacher. So there was never any question in my mind. It was the social studies field, especially history, especially U.S. history and government. Those were always my favorite subjects.
Yes, Mr. Bradford will be happy.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
colleague.
That's right.
Now, I know you coached football,
Yes.
so I'll presume you play, but what other sports activities have you been involved with?
Yeah, growing up, I was one of those kids. I played everything, football, basketball, baseball. Basketball wasn't really my sport. I wasn't a pure skilled basketball player. I was kind of one of those rough type players that would go in and get rebounds and foul. So after my freshman year, it was pretty clear that basketball wasn't my future. I loved baseball. Again, I played that early in high school. So through high school, I played football, though, and then my last few years in high school, I was a shot put thrower and discus thrower in the track team. So always enjoyed that, and just, had great memories growing up playing sports with friends, outstanding coaches along the way. And I always do think that football especially, but sports in general, really helped shape me as a kid growing up. That's part of the reason why in my 31 years now, as I'm starting year 31 in my career, I've always seen the importance of the positives that come through being involved with athletics.
And football season's here.
Yes, it's exciting. Yes.
If you could go back to your high school as it was when you graduated and go into the cafeteria, what box would you take out of to-go items? What would be in that box?
Well, I'm kind of ashamed to say, but when I was a kid growing up, like a lot of our students sometimes, I might not have liked some of the food that was best for me. So when I was a kid growing up in Rushville High School back in the day, the French fries were like one of the most common things you'd buy on the a la carte line, or items you'd buy on the a la carte line. So, and they always had this melted cheese you could get with it. So I just remember getting French fries and melted cheese, and that was like a big thing. But I will say this too, when I was a kid in high school, we had open lunch. So I would go out for lunch quite a bit too. So kind of not something you hear a whole lot about these days, but back in the day, so to speak, as we call it sometimes, back in the 1980s, we had an open lunch, so many times I'd go out for lunch.
I think the nutritional guidelines.
Yes, that's right. And it's not good. I wouldn't recommend it. That's right.
Now, know, of course, that you coached here a little bit years ago, and students, you can't ask Mr. Eldridge what year that was.
Yeah, that's right.
Unfair.
Yes.
But given, from that role to now leading an entire district, how has your journey shaped your approach to leadership?
Well, that's a great point. I often say that my career started here at Shelbyville High School, as you just alluded to. Back when I was in college, I was very privileged, had the opportunity and honored to coach here football while I was in college. And like I said, so we're going back 34 years ago. So we can kind of put some numbers together there. But I was a college student, and I was lucky, and so had the opportunity to work with great people here. You mentioned Mr. Eldridge, who still, of course, teaches science here. He and I were freshman football coaches. And but a couple of those years I was here, Mr. Parks was on the staff, Mr. Hearn, who's still around a lot. Mr. Olinger was the head coach. And I was lucky to be around great people, great men, great educators, great coaches as a college student that really helped shape me. And I often say this is where it started. This is where I got my first paycheck from a school because I was paid as a college kid to coach here. And so I've always, Shelbyville High School has always had a special place in my heart for that simple reason. Back in the 90s when I became a teacher, teaching jobs were hard to get. It was a different age than it is now. And I was a social studies teacher, and social studies positions were very hard to come by. And so I'm convinced that my experience I had here with coaching and just the fact that I was around great people who helped mold me, and they were very good role models for me as a 19-year-old college kid. I've always been very appreciative of that, and I've never forgotten that.
Yes. SHS has a good reputation for hiring good student leaders.
Yes.
I didn't know you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I've read your dissertation.
Yeah.
You have a PhD in leadership, and it deals with high-level conversations between school board members and school administrators. But we have a group of new freshmen here in the building. What's a leadership lesson that you think current students could take home now?
Well, first off, I'm impressed to know someone's read my dissertation. And you must, I don't know, maybe it put you to sleep a couple nights. I don't know, but appreciate knowing that. So that's always good to know. I love leadership. I love talking about leadership. I read a lot of leadership books. I'm always studying and having conversations on it. And I think probably the most important thing to remember about leadership, a couple things. Number one, I think it's important to know that when you are willing to step up and take a leadership role, you're taking a huge responsibility and you're going to lead people and you're going to influence people. That's what leadership is. And you have to be willing to do that. And sometimes it's not always going to be the most positive. Sometimes you have to make some difficult decisions. And so you have to have thick skin, so to speak, and you have to be ready to step up and lead. Along with that, I think even today, but I think it's always been the case, but I think it's even more important today, you have to be a servant leader. You have to care about the people you lead. And I think that's vital. I just think that's so important when we talk about leadership, to bring in that servant piece, and that's what you're doing. You're caring about people, you're leading people, and you're going to do what you can to help. And I think that's very important. I often go back to a principle I heard many years ago when I was in some classes about leadership, and it was the 90-10 rule. And I talk about the 90-10 rule quite a bit. But leadership's 90% personal skills. If you don't have good people skills, if you can't build relationships, if you don't care about people, that's the 90%. The 10% is the technical skills. A lot of the jobs we do as leaders, people can learn. A lot of the paperwork, a lot of those kind of things. A lot of that's not difficult. It takes time, it takes some thinking, but you can learn it. You can't learn the 90%. Either you have it or you don't. People skills, relationship building, caring, that whole 90% piece, I think of that to me is vital. And I think when you think about leadership and you consider leadership roles, to me, that's what you have to look at first. I want people on my team that they're going to fit that mold. They're going to care about people. They're going to be hard workers. They're going to be relationship builders. I think that's so important when you look at leadership, and I think it's even changed as the years have gone on.
Yeah, well said. Especially in education.
Absolutely. Yes.
Now, as a leader, people are always looking to you for updates on what's going on. Now, we'll have Mrs. Dawson in early next week to talk probably a little more specific about SHS, but can you talk about district-wide students, staff, just some updates of what's going on this year?
Sure. Well, one thing that I think, especially in this building, we're going to talk about updates. Number one, we're going to talk about facilities because there are going to be some changes coming. As the school year gets started here later in the fall, you'll start seeing some renovation work here in the building down by the old weight room area. That's going to be renovated into some, it's going to be athletic offices, some meeting room, a hospitality room, locker rooms for officials. So that area down there will be renovated probably late October, November, in that range. And then as we get back from spring break, we're going to see the locker rooms down, the main locker rooms, of course, down by the gym, and the restroom areas are going to be renovated as well. So that's going to start right after spring break. And then the plan is for all that to be done August 1st by the time fall sports start next year. So those are big changes coming. And again, anytime you have renovation work going on and so forth, it's going to require some patience. And we're all going to be having to work around some things. So This school year, that's going to be major for this building. So that will be starting, like I said, late first semester. Otherwise, I think that, obviously with the new group of freshmen coming in, there are always going to be some changes. We're going to be talking about the diploma tracks. I mean, some different things like that. I think every year in a school, we see some staffing changes. So again, some things there to work through as well. So just, the fact that the new school year, but I think when we talk about Shelbyville High School, without a doubt, the renovation updates are going to be huge as we ready to start those. The good thing is the roundabout is open. So that was something we were really worried about. It was on my mind all summer. I was checking on it a lot, just because I was worried about the fact of what that would be like if that was still closed when school started. So luckily, we were able to start the school year with the roundabout open, and I cannot express enough appreciation to the city for all their work on that, with getting some preliminary work started before our last school year was out, and they were able to get some work done before they actually closed it down. So like any year, there's always going to be a lot going on, but those are a few of the major things I see as we get ready to start the school year.
Yes. Now, I want to circle back to leadership one more time. You mentioned we have some new students in the building, and we have a lot of student leaders at Shelbyville High School. We have, formally, there's club officers or sports captains, and there's a lot of informal leaders of new seniors who are taking a leadership role in class. As students start to think about the type of leader they want to be, give any more advice or thoughts on that process?
I think when you talk about leadership again, and we have debates sometimes on whether leaders are born or made. And I've actually been involved with high-level discussions on that, what your belief is. And there are different schools of thought out there in that area. But I think that as you grow, you can grow into your leadership style, whatever that is. I think it's just important for someone to consider being a leader to for one, be willing to take some risks. At some point in time, you might have to sign up for something or, say, yes, I want to run for that office or whatever the case may be. I think I'd be willing to start with that in mind, that, I want to test some leadership. I want to see if I'm that caliber to be a leader. So I think more than anything, it's being willing to do it. And then number two, kind of like I said earlier, be willing to put the time in, be willing to take some criticism, be willing to have some thick skin, and also know that as a leader, you cannot make everyone happy. I know that, any day I come into work, someone's going to be happy with me. I mean, that's just a fact. And that doesn't make me happy, but that's the way it is. And I know that. I knew that when I signed up for the job. So that's one thing you have to understand as a leader, no matter if it's in school or politics or just in a business or whatever the case may be, you're going to take some criticism. You're always going to have some group of the individuals you lead not happy with you. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things where you just have to think about, at the end of the day, if you can look yourself in the mirror, and that's how I look at it, that I know I did everything I possibly could do for our school, our community, our kids, our staff, and you're giving it everything you can, and you make every decision with that in mind. I always go back to the old expression, when I think about a decision, what's best for our kids? And that should be number one. And then what's next for our school community? What's best for our staff, whatever the case may be. As long as you're doing your job the best of your ability, you're being fair, and you're dedicated, then that's something you have to evaluate within yourself. But you have to be willing to take those stands, and sometimes it can be difficult. And leadership's not for everyone. But I've seen a lot of kids in 31 years that I thought were leaders, and you kind of watch them as they go through 4 years of high school, or maybe in the middle school and then all through high school, and you see them kind of develop. And that's happened many times. You also see some kids sometimes that I wish would step up and take some leadership roles. So I think that sometimes students especially just need a little encouragement. And I think that's where we come in as staff members and say, hey, you know what, you really ought to maybe think about that. I'm not trying to force you, but I think you've got the traits to be a good leader, or help lead this or help do that. And then sometimes that's all a student needs, is just a little experience, a little taste of something, and then they'll be like, okay, I like that. That might take them a different path. So I think it's just important to be willing to give it a try, be willing to take some risks. At the same time, keep in mind what goes along with that.
That's great. I know with Mrs. Dawson's Leadership Council, hopefully this will just be a launching point to deeper discussion.
And I'm involved with that with her. That's something her and I do together. And that's one thing I really, really enjoy, because I enjoy getting around students. Again, I miss that. But, we have some amazing students here. Yes. And it's just, it's always nice to see all of students doing different things in different ways, and a lot of talent there. We just don't want that talent to go unheard sometimes. So I think that's important to keep in mind.
Excellent. Now, I'll close with this. this is more for parents, and we'll put the information up there on the screen. Visit with Vance, but parents next Wednesday can show up, and what exactly is a visit with Vance?
We started this last year, and you were a big help with me getting the word out and so forth, but just something, and I was kind of looking at something last year to start getting the word about some things going in our school. We do newsletters, we do things with social media, a lot of different things, but I think sometimes in person is the best. So we started this last spring, and so we're going to do, I think we'll probably do about 4 of them this year, space them out every couple months at Porter Coffee House, and folks can come in and hear me talk for a half hour, 45 minutes, or an hour. I think last year was a good 45-minute conversation, some good questions. I'll buy them a cup of coffee and just give simple updates on the school. So what I'll do on Wednesday, August 13th at 8 o'clock at Porter Coffee House, I'll just kind of talk about the start of the school year. I'll give an update on our facilities and just a few more updates on some things like we talked today that are maybe different and we're trying to do. My goal with that is just to have an opportunity for people to hear me in person. I think a lot of times, no matter if you're talking school issues or whatever the case may be, stories get told sometimes that might not always be 100% factual. And to me, it's important to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So I like this opportunity, and the people over at Porter Coffee are great to deal with, and they make a little room for a little area there for us, and just a good opportunity for anyone in the community to come out, hear some updates on the school, and talk about some school matters. And like I said, we did 1 last year. We'll do about 4 this year is my plan. And again, just another opportunity to get the word out. We have many good things going on in the school district. It's just so many times not everyone hears that. So between a lot of things you do and a lot of things your class is going to do this year and a lot of things all of our buildings do, we do have some ways to get the word out. This is just another avenue I'm trying so they can hear some things from me in person.
Absolutely. Dr. Vance, I don't think you need a hall pass to get out of here. You have a key, but thank you so much for your time and open invitation. We'd love to have you back.
I'll come back anytime. I love this. I love talking about our schools and just want to, let's have a great and safe year and thank everyone in advance for your cooperation. Thank you, Dr. Rollins. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.